This segment of the Alice Stewart Show is brought to you by Aero Plumbing. For all your household or business plumbing needs, call Aero Plumbing at 1-866-PLUMBER or schedule an appointment online at aeroplumbing.net.
And we're back on the Alice Stewart Show, 7:34 on a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday morning. We're joined in studio this hour with Julie Benafield. She is the owner of the Benafield Group, also former Arkansas Insurance Commissioner. She joins us in studio. Julie, great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
And for those who don't know, she knows everything there is to know about healthcare.
Oh, good grief.
And insurance and all these things that we're just now learning that, hey, we actually have a little control in that department. And
yes, we do.
Julie and I were talking about an article that you can see up on our Facebook page. It is taking steps to keep medical bills from getting out of hand. And with all of this that's going on, it's important to know some of these points that you are discussing. One being to stay in network. Another, don't be afraid to ask about costs. And we've got more on this list. The next one on the list, Julie, is know the rules.
That's right. And there are a lot of rules, unfortunately. It gets more and more complicated all the time. But some of the rules are actually good. Now, this article talks about, pre-authorization, pre-certification, and those can be two different things, a lot more than we want to go into this morning. And generally at a doctor's office or a hospital, they have people who are pretty familiar with each insurance carrier and what they require as far as pre-auth and pre-cert are concerned. This article doesn't mention it, but a lot of the companies now are requiring something that's pretty good, and it's a wellness benefit. If you go in once a year and get your wellness checkup, they will give you a premium discount. Sometimes, hundreds of dollars a year if you will go in and get your, just have your blood work done, your vital statistics basically taken. And so that's a good thing. So know the rules as far as you're concerned about your policy on that.
And that's key to, as it indicates here, if you're going to get a procedure, make sure you find out on the front end, because you don't want to find out after, oh, gosh, I have to pay for that. That's important. Another, right. Ask about financial aid. And it says the Affordable Care Act requires nonprofit hospitals to have written financial assistance policies.
Yes, they do. And I think if you'll look on, if sometimes you get sometimes you always get a bill on every bill. It will say, if you'll pay, you owe this money now, but if you can't pay it all, give us a call and we'll talk to you about it. What you'll find is if you'll give them a call, a lot of them will say, well, if you can pay the total amount now, we'll give you a 5% or 10% discount.
Right.
If you can't, tell us what you can pay, or here's your payout, $10, $15, $20, $25 a month. And what I have found a lot of times is that if you're just paying on it monthly, whatever you can pay, you're okay.
Right. You just show some good faith effort.
Absolutely.
You know what that you don't get when you go to a hospital or a doctor? You don't just get, hey, thank you. Thanks for coming. You always get a bill.
That's true.
That would be nice to go to the hospital, get something done, and just say, thank you. Yeah. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it.
Get a thank you note.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. No. All right, the next item on here, this is so important because this stuff adds up. You get an aspirin, you get a glass of water, it adds up. Get itemized bills. Why is that so important?
Well, everybody makes mistakes, and even computers make mistakes. And sometimes you may get double billed for something, maybe even triple billed for something. Now, a lot of the bigger companies, the insurance companies, will have auditors, either in-house or third-party vendors who may come in and look at the bills, look at the itemized bills and say, okay, this was not appropriate. They may catch something that's double billed, but you yourself know a lot of times what was done and what wasn't done. And, you may say, wait a minute, I didn't have blood work on that day, right, or I didn't have this done on that day. And so you can call and check and see and say, that was not done. That is not appropriate. And it's your right to call back and say, why was I charged for this? Or why was my insurance company? And people used to not question it because, the insurance company has all kinds of money. They can pay it. But what we see now is, where does that money come from? It comes from the consumer.
Absolutely. And it gets passed on. Right. And talking about the steps you can take to keep your medical bills from getting out of hand, we're talking to Julie Benafield, the former Arkansas Insurance Commissioner and owner of the Benafield Group. And Julie, here's another one that plays into just what you were saying when it comes to health care. Be your own advocate. No one better to fight for your rights than you.
Yeah, I think that really sums up everything we've talked about. Of the other 5 things we've talked about is, just don't be intimidated by the provider. Don't be intimidated by the insurance company. Ask questions. It's okay to ask questions because that's how you learn. And I think education is important. I think the more that people know, the better off they are, the better off the entire system is. Just understanding all of these things and where the actual medical costs come from. Because the big driver in the cost of insurance is the medical procedures.
Right. And I think that all these are important to know that you have a little bit of control with what you can do. And the article wraps up with key terms, and folks are familiar with deductibles, co-payments, co-insurance. But this one, out-of-pocket maximum, what do they mean by that?
Well, it's the most you're going to pay during any policy period. I mean, once you hit a certain amount with all this, with those 3 that you just talked about, you don't pay anymore. I mean, it could be $10,000 a year. It could be $20,000 a year, depending on your policy. At that point, once you hit that amount, then your insurer is going to kick in and pay 100% if that's in your policy, if that's part of your policy.
Right. Now, how does that differ from a deductible?
A deductible is what you have to pay up front.
Right. Yeah.
If, for instance, the company may say, the policy may say, okay, you're going to have a $20 copay every time you go to the doctor.
Right.
And then you have to pay a $500 deductible as well before we kick in anything. And so you'll have a $20 deductible every time you go to the doctor, and you have to pay $500 first, and then we start kicking in. We start paying 80% of your bill.
Right. Well, that's good. At least there is some maximum, which is good to know. All right, great tips for keeping medical bills in check. We're going to take a break. We'll come back more with Julie Benafield after this. And we're going to talk about something. We had this conversation with Senator David Sanders the other day, but this is about court rulings that could deal with subsidies for health care. We'll talk about that coming up with Julie Benafield after this segment of the Alice Stewart Show, brought to you by Aero Plumbing. For all of your household or business plumbing needs, call Aero Plumbing, 1-866-PLUMBER, or schedule an appointment at aeroplumbing.net.